Hi and welcome, or welcome back, to those who have been here before. I mean, I guess it's possible I could have some returning viewers. Today, let's take a look at 5 really silly games for the Game Boy Advance. I'm going to start off with 3 hidden gems, move on to a silly Metroid fusion hack, and finish with a game that's so bad it's kinda good. Alien Hominid. This is such a fantastic game. It has to be up there with some of the best games on the system. The majority of the game is side-scrolling run-and-gun style. You fire projectiles, slice and dice enemies, freeze them, burn them, extinguish them from existence, things like that. Whenever something in the game starts to feel a little less fresh, a new surprising thing sprouts up. For example, I love this part where you free a captive Yeti monster, then it picks you up and carries you, and you get to take control of it and fight bad guys as this big-ass Yeti. Or this part when you become a UFO above the ground, or when you go into outer space. The main drawback here to Alien Hominid is the challenge. There's a lot of one-hit kills. There are 3 difficulty levels, easy, medium, and hard. On the default medium mode, it's totally beatable, with some work for those who have mediocre run-and-gun skills. After you start getting the hang of it, it feels really nice when things click and you get into a flow. Or find a pattern for a boss. At times you're charging through a level in a groove until you hit the next unexpected obstacle. The controls include a dash roll, bombs, a gun with a number of different power-ups, and a jump. I mostly use the gun and jump button, and not much of the dodge roll. There are so many ideas crammed into this one game. A bit of history. Originally, this game was a brutally hard 2002 Flash game on the site Newgrounds, made by a programmer and an animator. Specifically, Newgrounds founder Tom Fulp and artist and animator Dan Paladin. They formed a company with a number of others called the Behemoth. Versions of Alien Hominid were also made on PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. Alien Hominid has an HD version that was originally on the Xbox 360, called Alien Hominid 360. Later, this was remastered and ported to modern Xbox, Switch, and Steam as Alien Hominid HD. And another new game called Alien Hominid Invasion was also made. At this time, it isn't yet on PS4 or PS5, but they're due to be ported to PlayStation as well. This game takes place on Earth. The titular character crashes on Earth, and FBI agents take its ship. In the game, you fight the FBI and robots, and you go to the Soviet Union and Area 51, among other things. Each area has its own silly character to it. The beauty of this game is the basic mechanics are simple to pick up, but you soon see how tricky dealing with the environment and enemy patterns can become. The bosses are really creative and not impossible to beat. Here's a Russian nesting doll boss, and a toxic sludge boss. The game took me 2.5 hours to beat using save states on medium difficulty. You can restart from any level you've reached in the game from the main menu if you don't want to or can't use save states. I can't say enough good stuff about this one, and it's a freaking great game to play on a handheld. Butano Fighter. Butano Fighter is a very silly shoot-'em-up. It's an indie/homebrew game that you can get through itch.io. I enjoyed the simple gameplay, the really nice graphics, and the awesome music. The first level kinda undersells the game a bit. It seemed to be a sort of low-quality tech demo at first glance, but boy was I wrong with this first impression. This is a fantastic game, and in my opinion, it's exactly the definition of a hidden gem. The title Butano seems to refer to butane gas, which is a combustible hydrocarbon fuel, and there's a bunch of butane cylinders in the title menu. This may not be the most challenging shoot-'em-up ever made, but personally I found it challenging since I don't play a ton of these games. The sprites are for the most part rather large, which I liked, especially for a handheld. The color palette is bright and has a high contrast, and there are clear black lines around a lot of the objects on screen. The projectiles also stand out. It makes it very readable, so to speak. It's easy to tell where the enemies and projectiles are on screen, when you need to avoid them or destroy them. The music is very energetic and surprisingly awesome. Some of the sound effects for the enemies can sound distorted and muffled. But I think this was likely on purpose to add to the humor. You shoot all sorts of things like goblins, slimes, and bats, and sheep and ninjas and squirrels. It's all got a silly light vibe. Despite this light vibe, the game has some teeth and depth. And there's a surprising diversity of enemies. The bosses have multiple forms and attack patterns, and there are many power-ups and bombs scattered throughout. The bombs are key to clearing the screen, especially for this boss. As for the length of this game, it wouldn't be super long if you were killing it and beating everything and just kicking ass through it. But it all depends on your skill level and whether you're playing it with or without save states. Without save states, it's a brutal gauntlet that sends you back to the start after 2 hits. And with the use of save states, it's more doable and challenging fun. I think without save states might be a satisfying way to play, to give yourself that real sense of accomplishment for beating it. But to be honest, I saved throughout the whole game. It has character, challenge, and gameplay that's addictive and fun. Check it out and support the creator if you like it. I'm not going to tell you what the final boss is, but you can probably guess. Discreet Orange. This next game actually isn't finished yet at the making of this video, but I love the silly concept and the name, so I think it fits this list. You play as an orange that can only sort of teleport forward discrete distances. You're asked to navigate through some environments, and just moving around can become a puzzle. You'll have to figure out how to get from one place to another with your bizarre movement pattern. Truthfully, it almost feels like the game is glitched, but you soon realize the kind of movement puzzles you're solving here. You can bump into solid obstacles like blocks and walls that change the pattern of your discrete movements, then use this new ability to solve various puzzles. I don't want to give away too much of the puzzle solving tricks, because part of the fun is figuring it out. I will say I got stuck at some point and still need to see if I can figure out the next bit. The character is adorable, and I'm partial to oranges. They're my favorite fruit, and I love fruit. This game will likely appeal to fans of puzzlers that like experimenting, to look for solutions to difficult conundrums. Don't go in expecting a typical platformer. We'll see how this game evolves if and when it is finished. It's very playable in its current form, at least up to the point I got, but I look forward to the final completed version. Samus goes to the fridge to get a glass of milk. This is a super short joke ROM hack for Metroid Fusion. Help Samus get a glass of milk for Adam at 2 a.m. That's it. That's the whole story. By the way, Adam is her AI computer. Her computer named after her commanding officer and serious crush. So really, you're getting a glass of milk for a computer. Metroid Fusion is an all-time classic Metroid game. Fusion has some divisive opinions swirling around it, since it's more linear than many other Metroid games. Thus, it does not fit neatly into the Metroidvania genre, despite looking like one superficially. But the linearity allows for an interesting story to be told. The replayability of the story with all its text is questionable, though. I do love Metroid Fusion with all its high-concept science fiction themes, and that is despite the usual questionable game design decisions from all Metroid games. Sometimes it's far from obvious what the next thing to do is in Fusion, even though it's a more linear game. But with this ROM hack, you put all those details about Metroid Fusion aside, and instead just take a simple late-night trip to the fridge. Except the fridge is a frozen room guarded by the Omega Metroid. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this can relate to a late-night trip to the fridge. Whether it's for milk, almond milk, orange juice, or a late-night snack. The premise of this hack is pretty terrifying. I mean, I wouldn't want to run into the Omega Metroid in an alley at night, but for me, the horror I'm talking about is lactose intolerance. I guess the milk in the game might be lactose-free. The game doesn't specify. Interesting side note, in case you didn't know, lactose tolerance is actually a mutation in the human genome by lineages of people who needed milk to survive. It's not the natural state of mammals to drink milk after childhood. That would be counterproductive to survival and reproduction, as weaning young is a key step in mammals growing up. Around 65% of the people in this world can't digest this evil milk sugar. Most other good Metroid hacks on Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are Metroid Zero mission hacks, like Metroid Desolation, Metroid Scrolls 6, and Metroid Juicy Mission, which also happens to be about getting a beverage. In terms of pure absurdity, there is a Zero Mission hack called Space Ellie, a Metroid Zero Mission desert bus experience. This hack is based on the ridiculous game Desert Bus, where you drive a bus from Nevada to Las Vegas in real time. It takes 8 hours. The game was part of Smoke and Mirrors, a Penn and Teller Sega CD game that was never released. It was poking fun at getting rid of violence in video games by making a game that was so overly realistic and monotonous it was virtually unplayable. The Zero Mission ROM hack has Samus riding 108 elevators, which takes 27.6 hours, and dealing with dangerous vegetation. Pocket Dogs. Pet ownership simulators are a natural fit for a handheld, because they're low-stress games that you can revisit for a short bit whenever you feel like it. Several pet ownership simulator games were made for the Game Boy Advance. These include Cats, Hamster's Life 2, Dogs 1, and Dogs 2. The Dogs games, with a Z, being some of the better quality ones. But the funniest of the bunch is this little oddity. Raise your own slightly creepy dog that talks to you. It talks to you in a very unhelpful way about your emotions and personality traits, and about its own emotions and personality traits as well. In Pocket Dogs, you get to choose from 8 different dogs: a Welsh Corgi, a Shiba, a Chihuahua, a Papillon, a Toy Poodle, a Pug, a Miniature Dachshund, and a Shih Tzu. I chose the Chihuahua because look at it. The dog you own is weirdly two-dimensional and moves by flipping around like a piece of paper, wobbling up and down like Jell-O, or compacting into nothing. It's also strangely transparent and fades in and out of existence. This two-dimensional gelatinous being that talks seems like a creature that's posing as a dog in an insane dream. Maybe it's an alien, or an interdimensional creature, or a slightly sinister trickster spirit guide from a fever dream. Speaking of dreams, I'm looking forward to the dream this creature inspires 10 years from now, as it is now firmly planted in my subconscious. This game was probably designed for kids, but I can't imagine experiencing this as a child and trying to make sense of it. In Pocket Dogs, I played 3 mini-games, a slide puzzle, a game about digging for treasure, and this one, which was weirdly kind of fun, in the way a mindless mobile game can be fun. You can win currency from the mini-games to buy stuff from the store, like decorations, and trips you can take your dog on. There's a photo album of your dog. Here's the "What are you looking at? F you" pose from the photo album. Throughout this game, you're building a bond with your dog by doing things like taking it on trips, playing ball, and most importantly, agreeing with its ideas. Some of the questions your pet asks and thoughts it gives are really odd. This game is ridiculous and entertaining in the same way a bad movie can be fun to watch. It's unclear what is the overall meaning intended by all these conversations, or if any meaning was intended at all. Anyways, that's Pocket Dogs. That's it for the video. Thanks for watching.